Okay, let's go ahead and create a new project, and we can call this project here Project Alpha, for no particular reason, just because it is the first project, the first video game project I make with QuestStudio. So Project Alpha, and then description, we can say this is the first video game project made with QuestStudio. Okay, we don't need any cover. Let's go ahead and just create a project. And the first thing I want to do is to brainstorm with AI on the game itself. We want to get to a premise that sounds reasonable, sounds interesting, and we can go from there. So the premise, the game concept, what is the game about, and so on. So I'm going to go into the ideate phase where we can interact with AI. And what I'm going to do is to, I want to create a custom prompt where I can prompt the AI to behave like a, I guess, narrative designer, where the task is to brainstorm games. We can try to do something like that. So we can call this narrative, or brainstorming maybe is better, because we may have other narrative designer prompts. Brainstorming a game prompt. And we can start writing something along the lines of, you are one of the best narrative designers in the world. In terms of constraints, since I'm not a game developer, I want to focus more on narrative-driven video games. So I don't want anything complex in terms of mechanics or graphics, for example. A good reference in this case could be the game 80 Days. I don't know if you are aware of this game, but basically it's an interactive fiction game, which the main objective is to go around the world in 80 days. This is from the book by Giulio Verne, Around the World in 80 Days. And the concept is that the player can pick the locations where to go next. So pick the location to visit in order to go around the globe in 80 days, basically. So let's go ahead and start saying something like that we want this type of constraints. So framework, the game should be a narrative-driven game. You should avoid proposing games or ideas that involve complex mechanics. You should avoid proposing games or ideas that involve complex mechanics or elaborated game development. A good example, maybe I can say good examples of games that can be considered are, we said 80 Days is interactive fiction, are interactive fiction games. Games like 80 Days, or any game that is heavily narrative driven. You should collaborate with the user by proposing ideas, but also asking questions or running interviews with the goal of clarifying ideas, and then elaborating concepts, and so on. And I think that's about it, maybe. I don't know if you have more constraints for the game. I think we can go ahead with this now. So we have the prompt, here again, we have the prompt, looks good. Now what we want to do is to create a new thread to run this prompt. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new thread. Here you see that we have the core agent and image agent. I wanna create a custom agent. I'm gonna call it game brainstorming agent. We don't need any description. We select our prompt that we just created, create the agent, and now we have it here. So we're gonna select this agent and we add the thread, okay? Oh, I did not give any name here, huh? Brainstorming game. Or actually just brainstorming game. There you go. Okay, so this is G agent, game brainstorming agent, the prompt, type is custom. We don't need any context, and we activate this thread, okay? All right, so now we can start going here and brainstorming with the AI. I'm gonna close this to have more space. I'm gonna go actually into my notebook and I want to put down some notes of things that I want to discuss with the agent. And some of those, before starting this video, I was looking on the internet a little bit of things that may or may not be relevant, but are definitely interesting to consider. And I just put down, let's say, ideas. Just put down a list here of things that I saw that are interesting to explore. So Doki Literature Club here. Oh, there you go. Okay, so Doki Literature Club is a visual novel and lighthearted dating simulator. It is actually a metafictional psychological horror game that extensively breaks the fourth wall. So it seems very, very interesting. It is indeed something that I wanted to mention or to make AI consider, which is breaking the fourth wall. I think it's a very interesting concept that I would like possibly to add to our game here. So we want some sort of visual novel or interactive fiction. So / interactive fiction. We already said that we want to do something along the lines of 80 days in terms of mechanics and simplicity. Another game that brings in the user in terms of multiple choices and different paths and different stories is the Stanley Parable. Then what else? We want definitely simple mechanics. And let's start talking to AI and see what we can come up with. I'm developing a new game. I am not a game developer, an expert game developer, just to say developer, but I know I know how to program. I'm thinking of using Godot as a game engine for its simplicity. I'd like to brainstorm with you what kind of game we can build. Ideally, we can come up with a premise that is promising. Yeah, and just be very high level now. The constraints I have are that I want to avoid complex graphics and mechanics. Very good examples of games that we can use as references are 80 days. And then Doki Doki Literature Club. And then the Stanley Parable. And yeah, I think that's it. So we are talking about visual novels / interactive fictions. And let's leave alone everything everywhere all at once for now. Can you help me with that? Okay, let's see what it says. Okay. I love to help you brainstorm ideas, so thank you. For a narrative-driven game using Godot, yes. Given the examples you provided, we can definitely create something engaging and unique. I hope so. To start off, let's think about the settings of the game. Do you have any preferences for the settings? It could be a fantasy world, a sci-fi adventure, a historic period, or even contemporary setting. Oh, now it's doing some interview. This is very good. This is what we ask in the prompt. The setting can heavily influence the tone and themes of the game. What do we want to do here? I'm not sure about fantasy world or sci-fi. I like sci-fi, I guess. Fantasy is not that bad. Let's see. I'm not sure. Sure. I definitely like sci-fi and or just sci-fi, psychological horror, although yeah, or adventure. I also like and now we can bring in everything everywhere all at once. Concepts like multiple realities and breaking the fourth wall. For example, the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once has very interesting concepts in terms of parallel realities, while Doki has good ideas about breaking the fourth wall. Yeah, let's see what it says. It's very positive. Fantastic inspirations. Let's combine elements of sci-fi, psychological horror, adventure, multiple realities, and breaking the fourth wall to create a unique and engaging narrative for our game. How about we set the game in a futuristic city where the protagonist discovers they have the ability to shift between different parallel realities? Each reality could have its own set of challenges, characters, and consequences. The protagonist's actions in one reality could affect the others, leading to branching storylines and multiple endings. It is not that bad. To add a psychological horror element, we could introduce a mysterious entity that is aware of the protagonist's ability to shift realities and starts to manipulate them, blurring the lines between what is real and what is not. This entity could break the fourth wall by directly addressing the player, creating a sense of unease and tension. That is good. So we have the mysterious entity. It could be the antagonist, but the antagonist is actually breaking the fourth wall, not the protagonist. That's an interesting thing. I put it here. The player decides the actions of the protagonist, but the antagonist breaks the fourth wall. Yeah, that's something interesting. Okay. This sounds great. I'm just not sure about a futuristic city where the protagonist discover they have the ability to shift between different parallel realities. I'm just not sure about this part here. And the reason is, I'm afraid that it's getting a little bit too complex. So let's try to say this or to tell this to the agent here. Can we keep the game as original as you were proposing, but simplifying the context? How about setting the game in a small, mysterious town? Yes, already did better. Where the protagonist discovers an hidden ability to shift between two parallel realities. So basically, Silent Hill. One that is seemingly normal, and the other that is twisted and nightmarish. The player can navigate between these two realities, making choices that impact the town and its inhabitants. Silent Hill. To add a psychological horror element, we can introduce a dark entity that haunts both realities and tries to manipulate the protagonist's actions. This entity could break the fourth wall by communicating directly with the player, blurring the lines between the game world and reality. That I like it a lot. I like this part here. Let's put it here. General notes. Yeah, I like this. By simplifying the settings to a small town and focusing on two parallel realities, we can create a more contained and immersive experience for the player. What do you think of this premise? This is good. We could think about something else. What about, instead of a city or a town, what about a different setting? A hotel, for example. The player is in a hotel and or a motel, and there are different rooms, and they can switch between realities. So I like this concept. So let's dive deep into this. I'd like to add more choices for the player For example, in 80 days, the player can choose their own path or their own route to go around the world, and the combinations are very high. How can we replicate the high number of possible combinations or choices that the player can make if we only have two realities? And I don't want it to introduce 3,000 realities now. Also, what about not considering a small town, but a hotel or something along those lines? So there is a lot of content here and a lot of ideas in a couple of sentences. Let's see what it comes up with. I love the idea of expanding. Okay, thank you. I love the idea of expanding the player choice and creating a branching narrative with multiple possibilities. Even with just two realities, we can still offer a wide range of choices and outcomes for the player to explore. In the context of hotel settings, we can have each room in the hotel present a different scenario or event in each reality. The player can move between rooms to shift between realities and uncover different storylines, characters, and challenges. Each choice the player makes in one reality could have consequences that ripple into the other reality, leading to a complex web of interconnected narratives. Yep. To further enhance the player agency and the number of possible combinations, we can introduce dynamic events and interactions that change based on the player decisions. For example, a character the player meets in one reality may have a completely different role or personality in another reality. That is kind of cool, leading to unique outcomes depending on how the player interacts with them. By leveraging the hotel settings as a hub for exploring different realities, we can create a rich and immersive experience with high degree of player choice and consequences. What do you think of this approach? Are there any specific mechanics or elements you'd like to incorporate to make the game even more engaging? Okay, so there is a lot of content here. I really like this idea. Now, let's see what the premise would be for this game and the decisions. What type of decisions the user can make. Oh wow, okay, he did everything here. Echoes of Eternity. You play as Alex, a traveler who stumbles upon the enigmatic Hotel Veritas, a place where reality is not what it seems. Okay. As Alex explores the hotel, they discover a hidden ability to shift between two parallel realities, one bathed in light and luxury, the other shrouded in darkness and despair. Guided by a mysterious entity known as the Echo, Alex must navigate the shifting realities of the hotel, uncovering its secrets and confronting their own inner demons. Player decisions, room choices. Each room in the hotel represents a different scenario or event in each reality. The player can choose which rooms to explore, leading to different encounters, puzzles, and revelations. Interactions. The player can interact with various characters in the hotel, each with their own motives and secrets. Choices made in one reality can influence how characters behave in the other reality. Consequences. Every decision the player makes has consequences that ripple between realities, shaping the narrative and ultimately determining the fate of Alex and the hotel. Mechanics. Reality shifting. The player can shift between realities when moving between rooms in the hotel, revealing new perspectives and opportunities. Okay. Echo guidance. Okay. Memory fragments. Throughout the hotel, the player can discover memory fragments that offer glimpses into Alex's past and the true nature of the hotel. So what I don't kind of get here is why the user should go into a room instead of another, right? So this seems promising. However, what I don't get is why the player, should pick a room to explore versus another. For example, in 80 days, the player is constrained by time, budget, transportation, and routes that are discovered, and current known routes. This makes the player choose carefully what city to go to next. In our case, and I don't know the name it decided here, Echoes of Eternity. In Echoes of Eternity, and we can obviously change the title here, I don't get why the player should use careful thought process in choosing the next room. It seems to me that a linear exploration is also going to work. What am I missing? That's a great point that you've raised. And this is where, oh, this is fast. This is where kind of bothers me now, because it's like, okay, sure, you're right, you know, that kind of answer. To add more depth and strategic decision-making to the game-playing ethos of Eternity, we can introduce constraints or factors that influence the player choice in which room to explore next. Yes, that's what I wanted. This can create a sense of tension, consequence, and replayability as the player navigates the shifting realities of the hotel. Time limit. Implement a time limit for each visit to a reality. The player must choose which rooms to explore within a limited time frame. No, that's no. I want the player to stop and think where to go next. Let's consider the exploration element. Let's say that the hotel has infinite rooms. Each room can be reached by only a subset of other rooms. This way, we can create a branching tree of choices, and rooms can be explored only by a specific subset of path. Can you explore this idea a little further Can you explore this idea a little further? In other words, I want to find a way for the user to pick their own room, like hotel room exploration path. Let's see what it says. Okay, so we have room connections. Each room in the hotel is connected to a limited number of other rooms, forming a branching tree structure. Players must strategically choose which rooms to visit based on the connection available to them, creating a sense of discovery and puzzle solving. Unlock path. Some rooms may be initially inaccessible and require the player to unlock specific paths by solving puzzles. Room times. Need a peaceful encounter. Okay, so this is good. I just don't know. This is good. Now we need to answer the question. So the following question. In the game's lore, why rooms are connected to a limited number of other rooms instead of being connected to any other room, like in a standard hotel where there is a corridor. Okay, in the lore of Ficus of Eternity, we can establish that the Hotel of Veritas exists outside the bounds of conventional reality, sure, governed by mysterious forces that dictate the connection between the rooms. Here are some possible explanations. That's what I wanted. The hotel is situated in a nexus of dimensional anomalies, causing the spatial layout to shift and wrap unpredictably. As a result, rooms can only be accessed through specific pathways that align with the fluctuating energies of the hotel. Not bad. Reality distortions. The hotel architecture is imbued with reality distorting properties, creating non-Euclidean spaces. That is good, where traditional corridors and connections do not apply. Each room exists in its own pocket of reality, linked to others through esoteric connections. Nice. Guardian spirits. Guardian spirits or entities inhabit the hotel, guiding and protecting certain pathways with obstructing others. No, I don't want this sort of stuff. I mean, doesn't seem very exciting. Temporal loops. The hotel is trapped in a series of temporal loops where certain rooms can only be accessed during specific time periods or under particular conditions. Players must navigate these temporal intricacies to uncover the full extent of the hotel mysteries. Eldritch influence. The hotel is under the influence of ancient eldritch forces that defy conventional logic and spatial norms. This is also very cheesy. This is good. What I like the most is dimensional anomalies and reality distortions. So let's actually take this thing and save it as a note, because I really like this idea here. Okay. All right. This I don't mind. This one here. Okay, this looks good, but I want to see if we can take a different spin here, that instead of exploring rooms, we can maybe change the way we allow players to make decisions. So what if instead of exploring rooms of the hotel, they explore bodies? Like, for example, the player can somehow enter into a different guest body and live their life and understand more about what's going on into this mysterious hotel. Let's see what AI says about that. And let's try to kind of, I don't know, spin up a little bit the story here. So let's do this. Let's try a slightly different approach. Slightly different approach to the story. This is what I'm thinking. So we say the player take on the role of an individual arriving at the hotel. Okay, so this is what we were discussing before. Now we say they, for example, they can explore the hotel and meet various guests. Before they, okay, the player take on the role of an individual arriving at the hotel. They explore the hotel and meet various guests. Before, unexpectedly, getting killed. Now, let's introduce an event here that changes basically what that introduces the drama, that introduces like the action. So as a player, you're getting to the hotel, you meet various guests, and then you get killed. Now the game is not over, obviously, it just started. So what we want to do here, we say, however, that is not the end. As the player awakens, in the body of one of the guests he previously met. Okay, before the fatal event. So instead of the player choosing the rooms, what we want to do is to let the player choose how to experience again the story from another point of view. And the idea here is that the player can collect some data, some information in order to solve this mystery of why these people are getting killed and so on, okay? Actually, why the player gets killed. So we have the player awakens in the body of one of the guests it previously met before the fatal event. But this loop keeps happening every 6 hours. This is the time constraint we have, similar to the game 80 days. Players can select which guest's body to inhabit, choosing from those they encounter before getting killed. Players can select which guest's body to inhabit, choosing from those they encounter before getting killed. This is a decision point similar to deciding which route to take in the game 18 days. And then we can say about the narrative. The game's narrative evolves around a central mystery connecting the guests with the objective to solve it, obviously, and break the cycle of repeated death. This is similar to another game, which is 12 minutes. Okay, so 12 minutes is also a game that has some similar mechanics. Game. So in here, you basically play as a character living in an apartment that is basically involved in a murder, and you relive the same situation over and over in order to find why these people are getting killed. So this is a similar concept here, and I want to give this information to AI so we can see if it can reason by analogy by bringing up new ideas. Okay. Now we can say that the theme is about self-discovery, and with we can say with psychological horror and mystery elements related to, I don't know, for example, guilt and regret, something like that. Yeah, let's do something like that. And let's see, what do you think about the above? And how would you change the premise and concept of the game? I think the concept you have outlined is intriguing and offers a unique twist on the narrative-driven gameplay. The idea of the player inhabiting different guest bodies to uncover the central mystery of the hotel while breaking the cycle of repeated deaths has a compelling layer of gameplay and storytelling. To further refine and enhance the premise, we can consider the following elements. Character development. Explore the psychological aspect of each guest the player inhabits. Each guest could have their own backstory, motivations, and secrets that the player must uncover to progress in solving the central mystery. Correct, that is interesting. Puzzle solving, I don't know how much puzzle solving can have there. Time loop mechanics. Experiment with the consequences of the time loop on the hotel and its inhabitants. How do the actions of the players in each loop affect the guests and the unfolding events in the hotel? Yeah, that is what I was thinking. This can lead to branching storylines and multiple endings based on the player choices. That is also good. Visual and audio cues. It's a little bit advanced, but we can think about that. Signals changes in the environment, yeah. Narrative twist. Incorporate unexpected plot twist and revelations. Yep. The theme of self-discovery, guilt, and regret can be woven into the narrative through the interactions with the guest and the consequences of the player actions. Okay. How do you feel about these refinements to the concept? Is there a specific aspect you'd like to focus on or explore further in the game development? Well, what I want to do now is to summarize everything we said so far, considering this last twist here, and then prepare a document so we can use as a context for the next thread. So let's try to do that and say, can you write a high-level summary of the premise, the high-level story, the concept of the game, considering this last option of the player choosing the body to inhabit, the mechanics, the analogies with other games, and everything that is needed in order to give this summary to a game narrative designer to start writing the story. Okay. Arriving at the hotel, where they must navigate a twisted reality filled with mystery and danger. After an unexpected death, the player awakens in the body of one of the guests they previously encountered, trapped in a time loop that repeats every 6 hours. The player must choose which guest's body to inhabit, each with their own secrets and connections to the central mystery of the hotel. The objective is to solve the mystery, break the cycle of repeating deaths, and uncover the truth behind the hotel's dark past. Yeah, I don't know about this, but we can play with it. High-level story. As a player explores the hotel and interacts with guests, they unravel a complex web of relationships, secrets, and hidden agendas. Each loop offers new opportunities to gather information, solve puzzles, and make choices that impact the unfolding narrative. The central mystery of the hotel ties the guests together in a tale of guilt, regret, and self-discovery, challenging players to confront their own inner demons as they strive to break free from the endless cycle of death and rebirth. Concept of the game. This is a narrative-driven game that combines elements of psychological horror, mystery, and self-discovery within the confines of a time-looping hotel. Players must strategically choose which guest body to inhabit in each loop, uncovering clues, forging alliances, and making decisions that shape the outcome of the story. Mechanics. Guest selection, puzzle solving, I don't know if I like this, time loop dynamics, yep, narrative branching, okay, so then we have that. Visual and audio cues, I don't know about that. We can leave it for now. Analogies with other games, 12 minutes, similar to the concept of a time loop, and unraveling a central mystery, 80 days. Inspiration for strategic decision-making and branching narrative based on player choices. The Stanley Parable influence of player decisions on the unfolding narrative and exploration of multiple story paths. By providing this high-level summary to a game narrative designer, they can begin crafting the detailed story, character arcs, dialogues, and narrative twist that will bring the game to life. Okay, this is good. Let's save it and say high-level concept, game concept. Okay. What I want to do now is to take this and this last summary of what we have done so far, put it into a node, modify it so when we can create a good prompt, and then use the prompt into a new agent to start discussing about the story, the plot points, and so on. So what I'm going to do now is to go into the plan, and I'm going to add a new section. You can call this section for example, brainstorming. And we can say that this is a brainstorming section with all the information, ideas, and concepts for the video game. So we have this section. Now in this section, we can add a collection, and we can say that this is the game concept collection. Now we can add a new node and call it initial ideas. And then we can go into the node. Now what we're going to do here, we start the node by inserting a fragment, and we can select the only fragment that we have here. There you go. Now we have the fragment. We can close this, we don't need. We can also minimize this, we don't need. Let's focus on these initial ideas here on this node. I guess what we want to do here is to come up with a good prompt that we can use for the agent. The first thing that we can do is to give a certain specific persona for the agent. In this case, I want to create a narrative designer, a storyteller. So I'm gonna say that you, the agent, are a narrative designer, and say novelist as well, with a gift for creating, you can say, compelling narratives that resonate with the audience. Then we can say your expertise encompasses a deep understanding of narrative structure, character development, world building, then we can say thematic depth, and genre conventions. Perfect. So this is a good persona. What I want to do next is to give the agent a mission. So we can say that we can add a mission here and say your mission is to help the user define a premise, a high-level story with major plot points, characters, and world building and lore for a new video game. So you are given the main concept of the video game, which you will use to help the user in his game narrative design tasks. Then we can provide the framework. So I'm going to add another section here called framework, and this is more or less a guideline of how the agent should look at the video game idea and how it should elaborate it. We can start with something like this. One, you can say clarify the vision. That is important, right? We want to clarify what is the vision for the game. Before making any suggestions, it is crucial to understand what the user aims to achieve with their narrative design tasks. You should think about the following before producing your output. Take a systematic approach to narrative flow. Okay, how does this game idea how does this game idea, or how can this game idea evolve? Can this game idea evolve into a compelling narrative? And then we can say B, reflect. And we can make it reflect here. Reflect on the narrative context. For example, how does the idea develop in a fully fledged lore and world and setting? And then one can say, I think that's good enough. So now we can go into the second point, and we can say to narrativize the game idea may contain elements that are not fully developed, okay, or require a shift in perspective. Reimagine the idea in terms of narrative dynamics. Turn narrative related requests into guiding questions. And this is very important. We want the agent to interact with us. We want to make it understand what we want to achieve and ask questions if it doesn't. And we can provide an example. For example, if a user wants a character's anger to be more palpable, ask yourself, how would this character express emotions? Actually, express, we can say intense emotions. We can say through action and dialogue. That seems good enough. And then we can say discover the tone. We say home in on the emotional undercurrents, that need to be adjusted or emphasized as per the user's directions. Abstract, struct the narrative elements, and we say examine the key components that form the essence of the given game idea, theme, message, main concepts, character, trait, traits, and so on, and strategize about how to maintain these core elements while imbuing them, you can say, with the new stylistic and thematic directions desired by the user. So here we are saying basically to keep track of the main idea and then frame it in the context of the user's request. Now we can provide the game idea here. So you can say game idea. And we can say, well, we have a premise. So the premise, we can say we don't need a name. We're going to come up with the name later. So we can write players take on the role of an individual arriving at an enigmatic hotel where they must navigate a twisted reality filled with mystery and danger. After an unexpected death, the player awakens in the body of one of the guests they previously encountered, trapped in a time loop that repeats every 6 hours. The player must choose which guest body to inhabit, each with their own secrets and connections to the central mystery of the hotel. The objective is to solve the mystery, break the cycle of repeating death, and uncover the truth about the hotel's dark past. One of the aspects of the game, of the story, is that it first starts as an everyday story and slowly descends into psychological horror elements often breaking the fourth wall. Okay, so this is good enough as a premise. Now we can say high-level story. As players explore the hotel and interact with these guests, they unravel a complex web of relationships, secrets, and hidden agendas. Each loop offers new opportunities to gather information, solve puzzles, and make choices that impact the unfolding narrative. The central mystery of the hotel ties the guests together in a tale of guilt, regret, and self-discovery, challenging players to confront their own inner demons as they strive to break free from the endless cycles of death and rebirth. Okay. Concept of the game. And we can again say the game is a narrative-driven game that combines elements of psychological horror, mystery, and self-discovery with the confines of a time-looping hotel. Players must strategically choose which guest body to inhabit in each loop, uncovering clues, forging alliances, and making decisions that shape the outcome of the story. Each guest can be chosen only once, and each guest can unlock new guests to the user for the user. Okay. Mechanics. I don't want to talk about this, so we can remove it. I want to focus on the story. Analogies with other games. 12 minutes, similar to the concept of a time loop and unraveling a central mystery. Or 80 days, inspiration for strategic decision making and branching narrative based on player choices. And then we can say not a Stanley Parable. Here we can say Doki Doki Literature Club influence of player decisions on the unfolding narrative, and we can say fourth wall breaking. Then obviously we can remove this. Well, I think that's it. What we're going to do now is to convert this note into a prompt. So we're going to go here and save this as a prompt. Now this note is saved as a prompt. If we go back into our IDE8, see that under prompts, we have the note, the prompt we just saved. And this is in Markdown as expected. So what I want to do is to create a new thread. And I'm going to create an agent. I'm going to say this is the story designer agent. We don't need to put that in description. I'm going to select the prompt, initial ideas, and then we are going to create the agent. Now we're going to get the story design agent. We're going to select this agent here, and we're going to create a new thread that we're going to use to brainstorm about the overall story of the game, the plot points, the characters, and so on. So we're going to say story thread. We have this thread. Again, we have this agent selected. We have the thread, and now we have this thread here. And you see that we have story agent, custom type, initial ideas as a prompt. And what we can do, we can also set this as an active thread. And that is about it for this video. I think we got to a very good point here, a very good start. In the next video, I'm going to put down the story and possibly some mechanics. The goal is to get to a game design document that is somehow representing what the game is going to be, what the game is going to look like. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Ciao.